There's something nobody wants to admit about attraction. We're told to chase harder when someone pulls away, to fight for love, to never give up. But here's the truth that will change everything you think you know about relationships. The moment you stop chasing is the exact moment she starts missing you. The moment you stop being available is when you become valuable again. Today, I'm going to show you the proven psychological tactics that make women think about you obsessively without you saying a single word. Let me be clear from the start, this isn't about manipulation or playing games. This is about understanding human psychology and how the mind actually works when it comes to desire and attraction. Because here's what nobody tells you. Desperation repels while scarcity attracts. Availability destroys mystery, while distance creates longing. When you understand these principles, you'll never have to beg for someone's attention again. I had a client who came to me completely broken. Sarah had been his world for 2 years. When she ended things, he did what most men do. He texted constantly, showed up at her workplace, wrote long letters explaining his feelings. He thought persistence would win her back. Instead, every desperate attempt pushed her further away. She blocked his number, avoided places they used to go, and started dating someone else within a month. Here's what he didn't understand. The more he chased, the more he confirmed her decision to leave was correct. Every pleading text message reinforced that she was the prize, and he was just another guy who couldn't live without her. But when we changed his approach completely, something incredible happened. Within 3 weeks, she was reaching out to him. Within 2 months, she was asking to meet up. What changed? He stopped being desperate and started being scarce. The psychology behind this is fascinating and brutal. When someone is always available, always responding immediately, always prioritizing you above everything else, your brain categorizes them as low value. Not consciously, but subconsciously. Your mind thinks if this person has nothing better to do than focus on me constantly, they must not have much going on in their life. But when someone is busy, selective with their time, doesn't always respond right away, your brain starts working overtime trying to figure them out. This is called the scarcity principle, and it drives almost every human decision. We want what we can't have and take for granted what we can always access. Think about it. The restaurant with a 3-month waiting list versus the one that's always empty. The limited edition item versus the one that's always in stock. Your mind assigns value based on availability, and relationships work exactly the same way. But most men get this backwards completely. They think showing more interest, being more available, doing more nice things will make her want them more. They operate from fear. Fear that if they don't respond immediately, she'll think they don't care. Fear that if they're not constantly proving their worth, she'll find someone better. Fear that any space or distance will make her forget about them. This fear creates the exact outcome they're trying to avoid. Here's the first mind trick that will change everything. The power of strategic silence. When she texts you, your natural instinct is to respond immediately. You've been conditioned to think fast responses show interest and care. But immediate responses actually communicate something else entirely. They tell her that you are sitting there waiting for her message, that you have nothing more important going on, that she's your top priority while you're just one of many options in her life. Strategic silence flips this dynamic completely. When you don't respond right away, her mind starts racing. Did he see my message? Is he busy with something important? Is he talking to someone else? That uncertainty creates a psychological tension that makes her think about you more, not less. She starts checking her phone constantly, wondering when you'll reply. She starts crafting better messages, putting more thought into what she's saying because she realizes your attention isn't guaranteed. I'm not talking about playing games or being rude. I'm talking about having a life that's genuinely full enough that you're not always available to respond instantly. Having work that matters, goals you're pursuing, friends you spend time with, hobbies that engage you. When your response time naturally varies because you're actually busy living your life, it creates the perfect amount of unpredictability. The second mind trick is even more powerful. Emotional contrast. Most men maintain the same energy level in all their interactions. They're consistently nice, consistently available, consistently interested. But consistency is boring. Contrast is captivating. The same meal every day becomes tasteless, but alternating between different flavors keeps you interested in eating. Emotional contrast means your interactions have peaks and valleys. Sometimes you're warm and engaging, creating connection and intimacy. Other times you're more distant and focused on other things, creating space and mystery. This isn't about being hot and cold randomly. It's about being genuinely engaged when you're together and genuinely focused on your own life when you're apart. When she experiences you as someone who has emotional range, who isn't always predictable, her brain has to stay alert around you. She can't categorize you as safe and boring. She can't take your interest for granted because sometimes you're focused elsewhere. This keeps her in a state of slight uncertainty, which paradoxically makes her more attracted, not less. The third mind trick involves understanding the psychology of investment. People value what they invest in, not what invests in them. When you're constantly investing in her, doing things for her, making her life easier, you might think you're building attraction. But you're actually training her to see you as someone who gives while she receives. This creates an imbalanced dynamic where she becomes comfortable taking while you become comfortable giving. But when you pull back your investment and require her to invest in you, something shifts. When she has to work for your attention, plan things to impress you, make an effort to keep your interest, she starts valuing the connection more, not because she's materialistic or calculating, but because humans are wired to value what costs them something over what comes for free. This doesn't mean being difficult or making everything hard work. It means having standards and boundaries. It means not always being the one who initiates plans, not always being the one who calls first, not always being the one who makes sacrifices to accommodate her schedule. When the effort becomes more balanced, the appreciation becomes more genuine. Here's what happens in her mind when you implement these principles correctly. First, confusion sets in. She's used to men being predictable, always available, always chasing. When you don't follow that pattern, her brain doesn't know how to categorize you. Confusion creates curiosity, and curiosity creates interest. Second, she starts paying more attention to you. When someone is always there, you stop really seeing them. They become background noise in your life. But when someone becomes less predictable, less available, you start noticing their presence and absence more acutely. Every interaction becomes more meaningful because it's not guaranteed. Third, she begins to question her own desirability. When men chase constantly, women know they're wanted without any effort. But when a man doesn't chase, when he seems to have other options and priorities, she starts wondering if she's as irresistible as she thought. This self-doubt, while not pleasant, creates a drive to prove her worth that wasn't there before. Fourth, memories of good times together become amplified. When someone is always around, the special moments get diluted by the ordinary ones. But when there's space between interactions, the good memories stand out more clearly. She remembers the laughter, the connection, the chemistry, without it being overshadowed by constant contact. Finally, fear of loss kicks in. When she realizes you might actually walk away, that you're not going to chase forever, that you have options and won't wait indefinitely, the possibility of losing you becomes real. This fear, when it's genuine and not manufactured through manipulation, can reignite attraction that had faded. But here's the crucial part that most men miss completely. These tactics only work when they come from a genuine place of self-respect and personal growth, not from a calculated attempt to manipulate someone into wanting you. The difference between authentic scarcity and manufactured games is everything. Authentic scarcity comes from having a life so compelling that you genuinely don't need anyone else to complete it. Manufactured games come from insecurity disguised as strategy. Women can sense the difference immediately, and only one creates genuine attraction. When your unavailability stems from actual purpose, from goals that matter to you, from relationships and activities that fulfill you, it communicates something powerful. It says you're a man of value who chooses to include her in your life rather than someone who needs her validation to feel worthy. This distinction changes everything about how she perceives your absence. I worked with another client who struggled with this concept initially. Marcus had been single for 6 months after a devastating breakup, where his ex told him he was too needy, too available, too much. His first instinct was to become deliberately distant with the next woman he met, calculating response times and withholding attention strategically. The result was disaster. She could feel the artificiality of his behavior and lost interest quickly. But when Marcus started genuinely building a life he was excited about, when he rediscovered passions he'd abandoned during his previous relationship, when he reconnected with friends and pursued goals that energized him, everything shifted. His unavailability became natural. His delayed responses happened because he was actually engaged in meaningful activities, not because he was watching the clock to seem mysterious. The fourth mind trick is understanding the power of emotional independence. Most men make the mistake of letting their emotional state depend entirely on how she responds to them. Good text from her equals good day. No response equals anxiety and obsessive thinking. This emotional dependence is suffocating for women and exhausting for men. But when you develop genuine emotional independence, when your mood and self-worth aren't tied to her actions, you become infinitely more attractive. She can sense that you're stable, that you won't become a burden on her emotional capacity, that she can relax around you without worrying about managing your feelings constantly. Emotional independence doesn't mean being cold or disconnected. It means having your own sources of fulfillment, your own emotional regulation skills, your own support systems. When she sees that you can be happy without her, the pressure is off. Paradoxically, this makes her more likely to want to be part of your happiness. Here's something most dating advice completely ignores. The quality of your absence matters more than the quantity. You can be physically absent but emotionally desperate, checking her social media obsessively, analysing every interaction, planning your next move to win her back. This kind of absence doesn't create attraction, because the energy behind it is still needy and focused on her. But when your absence is filled with genuine engagement in your own life, when you're not thinking about her constantly, when you're creating memories and experiences that don't revolve around her, that's when the real magic happens. She can feel the difference between someone who's away but obsessing versus someone who's genuinely living their life. The fifth mind trick involves understanding what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. This is the most powerful psychological principle for creating behavioral patterns, and it explains why some relationships become addictive while others fade quickly. When you're consistently available and consistently responsive, you're providing what's called continuous reinforcement. She knows exactly what to expect from you, which feels safe but becomes boring. There's no mystery, no uncertainty, no excitement about what might happen next. But when your attention comes unpredictably, when sometimes you're fully present and engaged, and other times you're genuinely busy with your own life, you create intermittent reinforcement. This is the same principle that makes gambling addictive. The uncertainty of when the reward will come makes the brain crave it more intensely. The key word here is genuinely. If you're artificially creating unpredictability by playing games, it backfires because the foundation is manipulation rather than authentic living. But when the unpredictability comes from having a rich, full life where your availability naturally varies, it creates genuine intrigue. Let me tell you about David, another client who transformed his entire dating life by understanding this principle. He used to text women constantly, always being the first to reach out, always available for whatever they wanted to do. His relationships would start with high interest that quickly faded into polite disengagement. When David started focusing on building his business, training for a marathon, and reconnecting with his passion for music, his texting patterns naturally became more sporadic. Sometimes he'd be engaged and flirty. Other times he'd be brief because he was genuinely focused on other priorities. Women started responding more enthusiastically to his messages because they couldn't predict when they'd hear from him next. The sixth mind trick is about creating positive associations during your absence. Most men, when they're not around, either fade into background thoughts or create negative associations through desperate behavior. But there's a third option that's incredibly powerful: creating positive associations even when you're not physically present. This happens when the time she spends without you is filled with curiosity about you rather than relief from you. When she finds herself wondering what you're doing, who you're with, what interesting things are happening in your life. When she sees something that reminds her of a conversation you had or an experience you shared. You create these positive associations by being genuinely interesting when you're together, by having stories to tell, experiences to share, perspectives that challenge her thinking, by being the kind of person whose absence leaves people wanting more rather than feeling relieved. Think about the difference between someone leaving a party and people barely noticing versus someone leaving and everyone asking where they went. The second person has mastered the art of being memorable, engaging, and slightly mysterious all at once. Here's what's happening in her subconscious mind during this process. Her brain is trying to solve the puzzle of you. When someone is completely predictable, the brain categorizes them as solved and stops paying attention. But when someone maintains an element of mystery, when their behavior can't be completely predicted, the brain stays engaged trying to figure them out. This mental engagement translates into emotional investment. The more mental energy she spends thinking about you, the more important you become to her psychologically. Not because you're chasing her attention, but because she's voluntarily giving you her mental space. The seventh and most crucial mind trick is about timing your re-engagement perfectly. Most men either disappear completely, which can backfire by making her move on entirely, or they break too early and return to desperate behavior before the psychology has time to work. The art is in recognizing the signs that she's starting to miss you, and then re-engaging at exactly the right moment with exactly the right energy. Too early, and you haven't created enough space for longing to develop. Too late, and she might have genuinely moved on or built walls to protect herself from the uncertainty. The signs that she's starting to miss you are subtle, but unmistakable once you know what to look for. She starts viewing your social media stories more frequently, even though she's not responding to your messages. She begins liking older posts or photos, scrolling back through your content when she thinks you won't notice. She mentions you to mutual friends, asking casual questions about what you've been up to lately. You'll notice her response patterns changing. Where before she might have taken hours to reply, suddenly she's responding faster when you do reach out. Her messages become longer, more detailed, like she's trying to extend the conversation. She starts bringing up shared memories unprompted, references to inside jokes or experiences you had together that she clearly still thinks about. The most telling sign is when she starts initiating contact after a period of silence, not with anything dramatic or obvious, but with casual messages that seem almost accidental. A funny meme that reminded her of you, a question about something trivial that she could have easily Googled. These are test messages, ways of reaching out without admitting she misses talking to you. When these signs appear, your response determines everything. This is where most men either rush, back in with all the desperate energy they had before, completely undoing the progress they've made, or they stay distant too long, missing the window when she's most open to reconnection. The perfect re-engagement is warm but not desperate, interested but not needy. You acknowledge her reach out in a way that makes her feel good about making the effort, but you don't flood her with attention or immediately return to old patterns of constant availability. You match her energy level, maybe slightly less, maintaining the dynamic that created her interest in the first place. Here's what this looks like in practice. When she sends that casual text after a week of silence, you don't respond immediately even though every instinct tells you to. You wait until you're genuinely free to have a proper conversation, then respond with genuine warmth and interest. You engage with whatever she's shared, maybe ask a follow-up question, but you don't launch into a lengthy conversation about how much you've missed her or what you've been thinking about. Remember this above everything else. The goal isn't to make her miss you so you can return to the same patterns that pushed her away in the first place. The goal is to become the kind of man whose presence is valued, because his absence is meaningful. When you master these psychological principles, you'll never need to chase anyone again. You'll attract people who genuinely appreciate what you bring to their life, not because they pity your desperation, but because they recognize your worth.